So if you're being called to wake up, it's even though we're having, there's a push forward now, ascension-wise, that's it's like a massive calling that's been happening for the past couple years. But before that, I realize now there'd been signs all throughout my life, and they're kind of weird. I actually had to look this stuff up at first. And this is complex because a lot of times when you're being called, you can have nearby negative, like 5D entities try to block that, just like what's happening right now with the problem of evil. I've talked about that for hours in available clips. But what was I saying here? Yeah, so you'll be called in particular ways where, again, you can research this stuff. And one thing that was hard for me to understand, I've mentioned this maybe one time, I don't think these clips are around anymore, where I was having birds, beautiful birds, run smack dab into my windshield. And this is with one of my older cars that I no longer have. It was a Camry, a Toyota Camry. I no longer have that. And I noticed after the second time or third time, just the bird just smashed into my windshield and it left a residue, okay? Exotic birds. I don't even know where the one bird came from. It just smashed into front of my windshield and apparently, it probably killed itself. And the one left a residue that never washed off of my window. Years later, when I got rid of the car, I could never wash it off. It was a permanent mark from that bird. It was just like an outline sort of smudge, never washed away. And then I started seeing birds would just hit a window. I'd be standing in a place, leaving them, just slam right into a window, or I'd be walking, and there'd be a dead bird, like right there. Like in the hot spot where I spent a lot of time at, there was like 6 dead doves, like right in a line, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit because I before that time period when I was seeing these dead birds, it probably lasted about a year. I had never seen that before, and sure there's coincidences, but as a great person once said, and I'm not going to name the name, there is not such thing as coincidences once you realize what time it is and once you're engaged in active correspondence with other dimensions. But back to the birds. So I looked that up and I came across a positive meaning for that in Greek mythology, where that's actually a symbol of a person about to go through a major spiritual experience. Okay? And I'm paraphrasing. You can look that up. I'm sure it's easy to find. And, it makes someone wonder, like, why would any peaceful entity want to kill some kind of bird? But I'm not going to talk about that for right now. That's second D consciousness. And as we know, spirit animals can occupy other spirits and they can guide you. Like you can, if you've ever seen a spirit animal just in a strange area, like maybe you've had some kind of spiritual moment, and then all of a sudden you look over, there's a deer just like in your backyard looking at you, or you're driving and there's a deer standing in an awkward spot or something like that. Spirit animals. So second D consciousness, there's ways they can be utilized that we wouldn't normally, but by the other side that we would have a hard time understanding, and that's one of them. It's complex, but it just is a sign. It's a sign of that you're get prepared. And then on the negative side, years before that, I've mentioned this a couple times, I was it was about 2007, 2008, I was managing a dancing club that was basically a brothel. I was, I carried a gun on me. I had gang members as my security, hard drugs. I was taking hard drugs, things like that, very negative. And I had, this is back when the Razor phone just came out, flat, first version of the Razor phone that, like, you turn it on for a couple minutes, it felt like it was going to catch on fire. I had taken a couple pictures of the property, and I noticed that entities showed up crystal clear out of the blue, and I was was like, what is going on? And this is back when digital photography was brand new, and only things like that happened with me would be double exposure. It would happen with film, not digital. And I knew nothing about mystery teachings, nothing about the positive occult studies, and so I showed a handful of people this. And I didn't want to seem weird, so I didn't show that many. And I remember some people, it took a second for them to see it, but the one guy, when he saw it, he dropped the phone. He was just like, they were terrifying images. And at that time, I didn't know anything about this kind of these kind of studies, and I thought it was like, hey, look at this. What the hell is this? This is cool. This is freaky. Because I still was a person who thought it was fun to freak yourself out, right? It's a learning process. And probably about a couple weeks after I had those pictures, I pick up my phone one morning. Just those pictures were blacked out of my phone. Everything else was intact. Every other picture was there. But any picture that contained an anomaly was blacked out. So these are the types of things I blocked out of my mind because I was a traditional philosophy student. I was preparing to engage in philosophy, which means you're an atheist. So I couldn't even process what I saw, and I didn't even want to think about it, because what I thought was, if this is real, does that mean that my time's almost up? Like, what the hell is this? But when you're being called, you'll have a combination of those two factors present itself to you. And if it seems a little weird or a little scary, well, you got to fix the situation. The only reason why that's scary stuff, the birds don't count. The birds are also positive, even though they're dead and they're hitting your windshield. But the entities that showed up on this old school phone, that was because I was surrounded by negativity, and it was where I was working out, and that's why that was there. And so then years later, like 15 years later, I have my major contact events, but those events were set in place to slowly prepare me later on to begin seeing a series of bizarre things that would lead up to a modern form of initiation, where you have to do things like Steiner talks about, where witness the guardian of the threshold, which is an articulation of your worst fears. You have to understand what that is. That's part of the 3-point triangle, the male, female, and then the merging of the two. Ancient geometric symbol that I see all the time. And the triangle really is the foundation for opening up another dimension. And the triangle symbol is the foundation for accessing and then manipulating Kozyrev waves, time waves. And so synchronicities, even when, I remember when I was, you will have things that are like movies. Like, I remember I was jogging right after some of my first contact areas in a hotspot about 3.5 years ago, when I totally knew what time it was. This is when you see 3D phenomenon that's undeniably from another dimension. And again, because your consciousness shifts, that's the first sign you're actually having real contact, is your whole consciousness shifts, because those entities are inside your mind. Nobody likes to think about that. Oh no, they're in your mind already. They're there. They can access it. They're just waves. They know how to utilize waves. Everything, I said that in the past 3 clips, everything is a collection of different waves, whether they're paranormal waves, whether they're man-made waves. That's what consciousness is. And so look for those synchronicities. Oh, so I was jogging, and as I was jogging, like, everything got really silent. And I seen this kid off the side, and he was singing with his headphones on. He was going, I'm not going to tell you exactly what he was singing, because it would give away things that could potentially be dangerous, but he was singing something that just happened to me, like literally, to himself, off to the side. He was like, he was like singing the story of, it was really strange. And I know as I'm saying that, I'm having a hard time describing that, because I'd have to give away more than I want to. But synchronicities are the way that angelic entities reach out to you and say, hey, this isn't a coincidence. Like, well, you did a good deed, now this